leaders from around the world are currently meeting at COP28 in Dubai in an effort to combat climate change. A number of new initiatives were announced today, and the Vatican also delivered their statement on the issue. CBC's Jamie Strachan has more.
Your Eminence, the floor is yours.
Today in Dubai, a Vatican delegation delivered a message from the Pope, the latest global leader to sound the alarm on climate change.
The destruction of the environment is an offense against God.
Thus far, the COP summit has seen a long list of pledges, promises, and pushes to do better.
Climate change signals the need for a political change. Let us emerge from the narrowness of self-interest and nationalism.
The key focus of COP28 is reducing emissions in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrialized levels. It is still possible for us to reduce emissions enough in this decade to meet the 1.5 degree target, but the science tells us quite clearly that we have to hurry, despite all the geopolitical tension. A number of key initiatives announced today. The U.S. says it will sharply reduce methane pollution from its oil and gas industry.
These standards will prevent an estimated 58 million tons of methane emissions by 2038, an equivalent of 1.5 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide.
Also, a massive investment from the world's most powerful countries to help shift the focus to renewable energy.
It's a call for all nations to stop building new, unabated coal power plants, a type of power plant that the United States stopped building more than a decade ago.
And a shared understanding that poorer countries need help dealing with the impacts of climate change.
Specifically in the Atlantic, coming from St. Kitts and Nevis, we are on the front line of climate change. We did not create the problem. However, we are suffering tremendously.
Amidst all the promises, there is doubt that any of it is happening fast enough, or that there is a true commitment to move the needle on climate change. The non-fulfillment of the commitments that were taken erodes the credibility of the regime. Participants here have said it will take efforts from nations big and small, rich and poor, to save the planet. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
It's a paradox of peril and promise. Grasslands are among the most endangered ecosystems in the world, but a surprising savior has emerged. Research shows that grazing animals actually have a positive impact on restoring the native habitat. So we visited a bison farmer here on the prairies to find out more.
Recreating these native ecosystems is a beautiful thing, and essentially, like, as humanity being the driving force on the planet right now, it's really a question of how should humanity interact with the environment. Yeah, I consider myself as making a difference in my own way. My grandfather was a grain farmer in the area for his entire life, and my father decided to focus more on the cattle because we're in a mixed farming area with some land that's suitable for cattle and some for grain. So we've been focusing on cattle for 45 years, and then we switched to bison in the mid-90s, so it's just about 30 years now we've been doing bison. One of the big features of bison is the fact that they're incredibly tough and resilient and look after themselves. So that was one of the drawing cards for us to get into bison, was just the appealing nature of being able to just let them do their own thing. The descriptor for bison in the grasslands is that they're the keystone species in the grasslands. And for people that aren't familiar with the term keystone, it's the important building block that which is the foundation for all the rest of the other species to build from. So because the bison have been grazing out here for 10,000 years, there's a whole network of grassland bird species and salamanders and every other living thing here, which basically has a relationship with bison. So a specific example of that would be the shedding of the wool, where in the springtime when the bison shed their winter wool, it's picked up almost immediately by all the other animals around here. So the birds will pick it up and incorporate it into their nests, and gophers pick it up and bring it down into their burrows, so they have a nice cozy fur-lined burrow to spend the year in. It's an important thing for all the other little bird species to have access to. People describe their walking as using their toes, and they tend to, it's almost like they aerate the ground a little bit. In our experience as well, they essentially act like cedars in a way, because especially you can see the hair on their chaps, like on their front legs. That hair will catch seeds, and then with the hoof action, they're quite effective cedars actually. So when the bison are walking, they kind of stir up some insects, and the birds will eat those insects. Or sometimes the birds will even perch on the backs of the bison, and they'll eat insects or different things like right off of the bison. You know, having a bison herd and maintaining this local grasslands is an important thing to do for the local environment, and something I can feel good about. And anyone that eats a bison burger could even feel good about. Unfortunately, cattle have sort of been vilified in the whole climate change debate, where it seems to be the common opinion right now that if you're concerned about the climate, you should stop eating beef. But from my perspective, I think that if those people, like just theoretically, if they had it the way that they think is the best for the environment, and everybody stopped eating beef, it would be an environmental disaster for all the grasslands that require grazing animals.
Welcome to the first weekend of December. After the break, your full forecast. Plus, we break down this unusual warmth. Some are loving it, but experts, well, they've got a few concerns.